Hey, welcome back. We are in the midst of our wake-up conversations with Peabod. Thanks for being with us again.
Glad to be here, man.
Yeah, man. Jumping into these conversations, we've done it with Zonti, we've done it with Roy Tosh. Now here we're talking with you about mental health, the journey of mental health, kind of how to navigate it as followers of Christ, or maybe even just trying to just figure it out on a day-to-day basis. Now, let me set up this conversation telling you a little bit about my journey with it. I know that you've mentioned in the last episode, you were dealing with anxiety. You still are to some degree, right? And you're finding your healing in that. I have a couple of family members that have really struggled in the area of mental health, anxiety, depression. I have a daughter who was harming herself. Wow. Cutting, doing that kind of stuff. And I'm going to be very transparent here, and I'm going to try to not get too emotional, but my struggle has always been, of course, I love my family, and I want to see everyone in my family thriving and joyful and full of peace and hope, right? And they're going through these things, and I just don't understand. I don't have a level of understanding. I want to have empathy, but it doesn't exist. And I don't know if it's just, it could be just I'm different in personality. Maybe I'm pushing down my own emotions. I don't know. I'm unsure of how to be a support, because I do feel like I'm supposed to do that. And sometimes all I want to do in the midst of those mental health challenges for my family, like my initial reaction is just like, can you just get over it? Or can you just relax? Or why can't you find a place of peace in the midst of these challenges? So I'm coming from I think I'm representing a group of people who want to help, but are not sure they can or know how. Yeah. And I'd love to hear your perspective on that, and give me, you're my friend now, okay? I consider you a friend. So I'm coming to my friend saying, help me, because I do want to support. I just don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful and vulnerable of you to share that. And honestly, I think you being open and saying that is a bigger step than you might realize, and then that a lot of people in your position might realize, because I think that it's human nature a little bit to say, I don't understand it, I'm going to push back. Yeah. That's our human tendency, and I'd say like our post the fall tendency. Like I think with the Holy Spirit, we can learn to lean into uncomfortable things, but our knee-jerk reaction is like, I don't get it. Get it away from me.
And when you say the fall, you're talking about like
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve, sin, like we were perfect and now we're broken, and humanity is on the path of destruction.
Yep.
Okay.
Good clarification.
Yeah. Okay.
Pastor brain.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good.
So I think what you're describing is already you saying, okay, God, I feel you moving me to something else, and it's uncomfortable because I don't know the first step here. And so I just think, you can give yourself some credit here and going like, not in like a, pat yourself on the back, but go like, I think you get more than you think already, because there's a desire to understand more. Do you have people in your life that fit that description that I just gave you, like me, or someone who just isn't really vibing with you with where you are in your mental health? Yeah. I mean, I'll say like around me directly, like a lot of, there are people in my family who do struggle with mental health too. And so like my parents get it from like they've been through it. My wife gets it from she's experienced anxiety. And, but I definitely have come across people, like one time even I like posted about going to therapy and how it's been really helpful for me. And I had someone comment on it, I don't think this is a good message. And just straight up like And you know, they're coming from a different walk of life.
Sure.
They might be coming from a belief system where, the only answer here is to go to prayer. And obviously prayer is an important component, but yeah, there's definitely,
I don't feel so bad about myself now.
Totally.
I don't think I would have ever done that, because that sounds mean. And,
Totally.
And we don't want to be mean. We want to be helpful, but we just don't. I don't even know if the words to say.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. And so I think we were talking a little bit about this earlier, and because, I'm not an expert, but I can say I think that what I have found in this kind of conversation is a lot of times people can get bogged down in like needing to know the specifics of what's going on. Mm-hmm. So like let's say I'm having an anxiety attack right now, and you're going, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Isaac is trapped in his brain here. Isaac Peabod. Isaac's my real name. He's trapped in his brain here, and something's going on. I don't know what to do. A lot of times I think the people go straight to, well, I have to understand what's going on in his brain. I need him to be able to verbalize what's going on. And really, this is a quote from my dad, who's a pastor and super smart. Sometimes in situations like that, it's more helpful to back up all the way to like the question, what's the most loving thing that I can do right now? And what I love about that question is it breaks through any shame of like, I don't know, I'm not familiar with this subject matter, so I don't know how to interact with you. It breaks through any sort of preconceived notions or judgments that we might have about the person and whether or not they should be reacting this way. And it just goes straight to like, what's loving for this person right now? And the other thing, sorry, I'm on a train of thought here, but the other thing that I think is beautiful about that question is it adapts depending on where people are in different situations.
Right.
So I'll just give you an example.
Okay.
So like where I'm at in my story with anxiety now is a lot healthier than where I was at 2 years ago.
Okay.
And praise God for that. But there are things that my wife, who knows me and loves me, can say to me now that are appropriate to say in love that would not have been helpful to me when I didn't have any of the tools that I have now. I didn't have the language around it. I didn't even know what was going on in myself.
Okay.
So for example, now I have enough language around my anxiety that there might be a small thing that sets me off. And in some of those smaller scenarios, sometimes I can choose to give more power to anxiety or not. And that's not everyone's case. That wasn't my case 2 years ago. I felt very powerless if something set off my anxiety response. But now my wife knows me enough, and she knows that I have some tools under my belt and I have some language, so she can go, hey, is this something that maybe you can actually turn away from? Maybe you can do some breathing, maybe you can whatever. And now that I have some of that under my belt, that's actually really loving for her to challenge me in that way, because I have grown some muscles around that. If she had done that 2 years ago, dude, it would have just driven me into that hole even deeper, because I would have said, I don't know what to do. And so, so I think, all coming back to like, if that's the jumping off point, what is most loving right now? If that's the framework, there's not really you can't lose, I guess.
Okay. So let me phrase it to you in another way, and maybe more personal to me. And
Sure.
It's important for us to say that neither of us are mental health experts.
Yes.
So we're just talking our own experiences.
Yes.
Right. And we're hoping that in sharing our own experiences, someone will find some hope, some ray of sunshine in the midst of it, and maybe take that first step or the third step, whatever step they're on.
Yeah.
So you said, what's the most loving thing I can do? And I love that question. Here's how I react to that question. I'm a problem solver by nature. I love to solve problems. So for me, when you say that, the best thing that I can offer to the person that I love is to fix their problem.
Yes.
And I know, because I've had this conversation with several people in my family who struggle in this area, that is exactly what they don't want and need. So then I'm stuck to find, okay, then what is it? Like, what is it? And I still wrestle with that, because in my brain, which isn't right, of course, is I know exactly what has to happen now. Right. I know what the next step is. And if everyone would just listen to me, this would be figured out.
Yeah. Dude.
So help me.
Yeah, please. Dude, well, I think, I totally get where you're coming from. And maybe this is also just like, as a husband, the stereotype too is you're like, don't worry, babe, I'll fix it.
Exactly.
She's like, I just want you to listen. But I think that the best part of the nature of that question is, I love you so much, I want to take this pain away from you. I want to make it so you don't feel this way anymore. That's a good desire. That is a loving desire. And so the hard thing about mental health problems is there's a lack of control. And so both for the person experiencing it and the person sitting next to them, neither one of them can go, oh, here's the button, boop, and now it's like, I feel better. I don't think boop is the sound it would make.
We'll tell the producer to put a different sound.
Yeah, perfect. It'll be something really cool and meaningful. No, but I think like, I do think it's like, of course you want to fix it. As a dad, of course you want to fix it. And so when we're confronted with something that we can't fix, that's really tough. There is a really awesome author, and he's a hospital chaplain. His name's J.S. Park, and he's a great follow, but he writes a lot about grief. And he has a book coming out. I haven't read it, so I don't actually know the book. But the title is basically something along the lines of like, grief can't be rushed. The idea that I'm paraphrasing here, but
go for it.
He says something along the lines of all these voices that are good-natured and want to help me kind of want to hurry me along to the next thing. And grief is the first voice who says, take your time. And I think that, at least in my experience, and I think in speaking broadly, a lot of mental health problems, there's a sense of urgency to it. And often that sense of urgency is unfounded. So like in the last episode, I talked about when I was having these kind of paranoid feelings that like maybe someone was like trying to get into our house, even though I live in like a super safe neighborhood and all these things. Like there was this urgency that was introduced that didn't need to be there. And so the idea that maybe there's something to be learned in this process while I'm here. Maybe I don't need to move through it like super quickly. Maybe that's not the goal, to like stop feeling this way in 30 seconds. Maybe it's okay if I sit and let it pass and take some time. I think that that also speaks to the character of God a little bit, in the sense that since he is in control, since he is bigger than anything we could ever throw at him, he's not afraid of the things that make me afraid or that make your daughter afraid. And he can sit with us and say, I'm here, take your time. And so I think, I'm getting off topic here, to go back to your question, I think that what is most loving, the gut reaction is, I want to fix it. And so then I think if we're able to get to a place where we accept, I can't fix it, then I think what's the next most loving thing? And it might just be sitting. It might be grabbing a blanket for them. It might be bringing them some tea or some Gushers. I don't know. Probably wouldn't be Gushers for me, but
no.
I don't know. Maybe on the right day.
You can't go wrong with good food. You know, I really hate this conversation right now, because you're reminding me of a lesson that I learned that I'd forgotten. And I'll illustrate it this way. So I'm Hispanic, but I'm not typical Hispanic. Okay. To say that most Hispanics have time issues. We don't get anywhere on time. We're late for everything. Okay. But I've learned, I don't know why, I hate being late for anything. Now, I'm the only one in my family that this is a struggle for. Okay. So like going to church, getting ready for church. I'm always the first one ready. I got the clock on my mind. I know what time it is. I know how long it's going to take to get from point A to point B, and I have it all timed out. And I got to the point in preparation and trying to get to places that I would get ready, and then I would kind of stand around, kind of looming over the rest of the family, like casting this imaginary shadow over them, letting them know like, hey, we got to get moving, right?
And cracking up because I do this to my wife.
You do this. Okay.
I'm sorry.
But one day it hit me, especially as we were getting ready for church. By doing this, I'm not being loving. All I'm doing is getting angry and frustrated at my family, which I'm supposed to love.
Yeah.
And I'm creating a negative atmosphere where I should be creating a loving atmosphere. So I need to just relax. And like you said, be willing to wait. And let this be a loving moment instead of an anxiety-inducing moment for me, which is what it was, or a frustration moment for me. And you said that, and it just reminded me of that, and how many times, especially with my daughter, because I remember moments where it was just me saying like, just be okay with this. Like it's like you can be stronger, you can be better,
right?
You can be more like me, where you could just brush this off and not make it as big of a deal. And I'm realizing now that wasn't the most loving thing I could do in the moment. In fact, it was probably the worst thing I could do. And how much, and I don't want to cause guilt for anybody, but now I think back, like I contributed, maybe not a lot, but I contributed to the problem in a way by not doing what you're doing. And I think that's such a great question that I got to keep reminding myself, what is the most loving thing that I can do? And fixing it is probably last on the list.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think that self-awareness is really beautiful. And for the record, it's not like I'm asking this question every time too. Sometimes my wife is dealing with anxiety and I do the same thing. I go like, just be fine. Even though I've dealt with anxiety and that's not what I want, it's so easy to go to that. So yeah, man, I feel that too. And yeah, I think that slowness does kind of go hand in hand with like actually being able to ask that question and answer it seriously. Because, excuse me, I think if we rush the like, okay, well, what's most loving? Well, I'm just going to fix it. Like, of course, that's where we'll go. But if we take a breath and go, okay, if I remove myself from the situation a little bit, what's actually most loving? Like, for example, I'm cracking up because I'm like, my wife's going to watch this episode and be like, you better be taking notes about the going to church thing. And, for me, at the end of the day, being a few minutes late to church is like, who cares?
Right.
God certainly does not care. And that's not something that is helpful for me. And I'm certainly not making anything go faster by being annoying. And then there are times where like, it is important to get out the door and the urgency is real, but most of the time that's not the case.
No.
And so, yeah, man, I think that's really beautiful.
Well, let me ask you this question just to kind of take the next step in this. So I love what you said about how your wife, now has learned what the language is, how to help you, how to give you the best love in the situation. And 2 years ago, it was different. She couldn't have the same approach.
Yep.
So it's obvious to me that she's been on the journey with you, right?
Yes.
You've learned, she's learned for herself and for you.
Yeah.
So how do those of us who are kind of watching from outside and want to support, how do we become part of that journey with the person? How do we invite ourselves in a way that's constructive and that we can be helpful so that we can learn the language, we can learn the way to support well? What's the right way to do that?
Totally, that's huge. I think it comes down to, this is actually great because I think this ties in a little bit to what we were saying in the last episode with trust. Trust is something that has to be built.
Yeah.
And I think the strange thing is, I think with a family member, you feel like, well, I already have the trust. Like we don't need to establish any more trust. Like I'm her dad, or she's my wife, like whatever, it's there. But I think with something like mental health issues, there's an inherent vulnerability to it that's different. It's a piece of yourself that I'm still developing language for how to express myself in a way that actually would help my wife understand where I'm coming from. She's infinitely gracious and really smart. So she's really good at that. But sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to communicate what's going on. But she's built trust with me, so I feel safe when I do have an insight going like, here's something that I think is true about me, or think is true about what I'm telling myself in my head. So I'd say there are things you can do to build trust with the people in your life who are struggling, and I think you can always build more trust with people. So I think a lot of it just starts with asking these same kinds of questions. Like, I think it can just be like, what would be helpful? Next time you feel this way, like, what would you want from me? Because I want to give that to you. I want to be able to come alongside you and help you feel better, help you to be able to move on, or at least keep you company while you're going through it. Yeah. And so I think asking questions is a great way. I think like what we're doing right now, being able to talk to people like, I'm on the other side of a couple years of therapy, and being able to say, well, here's what I can share with you, and maybe that'll be helpful. Really, I think that just the willingness to go, I want to talk about this and not assume that I know everything. I think that's kind of the whole thing. And the more you learn, the more you'll apply that to how you interact, and it'll just grow your empathy and your knowledge of what that person needs. And man, you're doing all the right things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
From what I can see over here in this chair, as a non-expert in anything.
Well, there you go. Peabod says I'm doing all the right things.
Yes.
So, so glad you could join us for this conversation. And there are a few more coming. So make sure that you like, subscribe, share this video with someone who maybe is going through the same challenges I'm going through, kind of trying to understand people who are struggling with mental health and how to support them the best way. Asking that question, how can I love you the best right now? So make sure that you keep abreast of what we're doing, and more conversations coming. So we'll see you next time.